Mayor Sohi, we're live from River Valley Room at City Hall.
All right, good morning, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. At this time, I would like to acknowledge that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and acknowledge the diverse indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Sotu, Blackfoot, and Gorasu, as well as Métis and Inuit, now settlers from around the world. I will do a roll call of committee members. Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning.
Councillor Knack.
Good morning.
Councillor Rice.
Good morning.
Councillor Rutherford.
Morning.
And I will see if there are other council members joining us. I see Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
And
Good morning.
Councillor Joanne Wright.
Good morning.
Councillor Principe.
Good morning.
Councillor Tang.
Good morning.
Councillor Jans.
Good morning.
All right. So that's it for now. Adoption of the agenda. Councillor Rice, you want to move the adoption of the agenda, please?
I move that the November 23 and 2022 Executive Committee meeting agenda be adopted with the following change. Addition 7.6, update on emergency shelter space in Edmonton, verbal report.
Thank you. Please vote.
I'm a yes. Yes.
Thank you. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Approval of the minutes. Councillor Knack.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. I'll move the approval of the minutes from the October 26, 2022 Executive Committee meeting.
Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, please vote.
Just waiting on one vote.
It didn't come up for me. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Any protocol items? Seeing none, select items for debate. All right, who would like to go first? Please sign up. Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. I would like to select 7.1 and 7.5.
Okay, I will select 7.6. And Counselor Knack?
I believe we have speakers on 7.2 and 7.4.
7.2, 7.4. Counselor Stevenson?
I'd like to select 7.3, please.
7.3, okay. So that's all the items, right? That is all the items selected for,
I just have a general question about the fives.
can you select one then, please?
Just select one, even if it's a general question.
Yeah, please, yeah. Mike? Counselor Stevenson? Counselor Rutherford? Which one?
Okay, I will select 5.1, though it's just a general question on the fives.
5.1. Anything else? Okay. All right, so those are the items selected for debate. Can someone move the balance, please? Counselor Knack?
Happy to move the balance.
All right, please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Can you please read us back what we have already approved?
Absolutely. Thank you, Executive Committee. Today, the committee has approved the recommendations in the following request to reschedule reports. Item 5.2, Edmonton Soccer Association Community Benefits and Access. Item 5.3, Advisory Committees of Council Policy Review. Item 5.4, Residential Subclasses and Options for Other Residential Phase-Out. Item 5.5, Options for Unfunded Capital City Downtown Community Revitalization Levy, CRL Catalyst Projects. Item 5.6, Research Park Economic Development Opportunities, Options and Actions. Item 5.7, Property Tax System, and Item 5.8, Land Development Policy, C511, Recommended Updates.
Thank you so much. Request to speak. Counselor Stevenson.
I will move that Executive Committee hear from the following speakers in panels when appropriate. On item 7.1, Kyle Consorada, Aisha Datar, Chris Casson, Sheetal Mehta, Adam Brown, Zach Storms, Cheryl Watson, and Thomas DeHaas. On item 7.2, that we hear from Victoria Selly, Colin Christensen, Brad Ferguson, Sheetal Mehta Walsh, Myrna Bittner, Marenka Eniola, Olasiabikan. On 7.4, Stephen Wong, Juliana Weber, Jay Froese, Dolly Zapata Montufar, and Melanie Hoffman.
Just waiting on one vote. We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. That's request to speak, request for specific time on the agenda. Councillor Rutherford, you want to move?
Sure, I'll move that the following item be dealt with at a specific time on the agenda. Item 7.6, update to the emergency shelter space in Edmonton verbal report at 1:30.
Yeah, thank you. Please vote.
Can I ask questions about this, though, before we vote?
You have questions to making time specific? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, again, this is a very important item, and we have lots of speakers, so if it's time specific, will this affect any of the speakers that are here in person today?
Yeah, so if we don't get to speakers on item 7.1 and 7.2 before noon, then we will pause that discussion and come to 1:30 item.
Okay.
And I would prefer that, that on 7.4, if we get to a point where we running out of time, that we at least hear from the speakers today, and then refer the item to a future meeting, right? So that will be kind of the idea to
Okay,
get
so
through the
are we
agenda.
bringing forward 7.42?
Not at this time. We'll see
Okay.
how we do on
Okay.
7.1 and 7.2.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. That
Thank you.
clarifies.
Yeah, please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please.
Sorry, we'll have to recall the vote.
Okay, recall. Vote again. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried. Any consular inquiries? See none. Reports to be dealt with a different meeting, none. Request to reschedule reports, none. And we are going into our first item, 5.1. Councillor Rutherford.
Yeah, I just had a general question. I've been noticing on a lot of agendas that there's a lot of rescheduling of reports. So I just wanted to ask administration if there's any rescheduled reports that are impacted by any budgetary, like that we should be considering in terms of impacts by budgetary decisions.
So thank you for the question, Councillor Rutherford. So at some of the agenda review committees, we've been having some real challenges with trying to figure out sort of what are the most pressing matters to be dealt with within a committee day. The items that were prioritized for today were the ones that at the time of preparing the agendas were the most time sensitive, but you're absolutely right. I think because of the gap in committee meetings between the end of October and now not again until January, a lot of reports had to be moved off to accommodate what's on today's agenda. You're right.
Yeah, and I guess my question is more if, so for example, if something's due first quarter 2023, will it potentially be removed dependent on council decisions at budget? Or will these continue on no matter what's decided at
I
budget?
think we're always are going to have status reports because
Okay.
sometimes something will require more engagement. We've learned more as we've gone along, so the project takes a little bit longer. Another reason for a status report is that what happens at a budget might change the direction in some of these reports coming forward. So
Okay.
there always will be status reports as we work to manage the agendas and manage the large-scale projects that we have on the go.
Okay, so it wouldn't be moving them off with the potential that they'd never come back. They'll always come back.
Yeah, so great question. Reports will always come back. However, depending on how the next 3 weeks unfold, there is an opportunity twice a year where we do come forward with bylaws that have to be rescinded, policies that have to be updated. And if different direction is required on some of these previous motions, we are always open to that feedback.
Perfect, thank you, appreciate that. That was all my questions. And I'll move the recommendation in 5.1.
Thank you, Councillor Rutherford. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
All right, please display the votes. Here we go. We done one item. Okay, now we are into our second item, which is 7.1, Edmonton Edge Fund. I understand there will be a presentation from administration, then we will go to the speakers.
Good morning, committee. We have a very short presentation, some opening comments on the that set the stage of the importance of this fund for Edmonton and support of Edmonton businesses. With me today is Janice Wan, the Senior Executive Advisor in the Deputy City Manager's Office in Urban Planning and Economy, and she's going to provide the opening comments.
Good morning. Administration is pleased to present the proposed Phase 1 of the Edmonton Edge Fund for Council's consideration. Growing a thriving business has become increasingly more challenging. Access to capital, talent, and materials at competitive rates are just a few challenges. The Edmonton Edge Fund is designed to break down financial barriers for businesses across the globe, including Edmonton, looking to start, scale, and stay in Edmonton. It's designed to give companies an edge to do something transformative here in our city. Some key features of the Edmonton Edge Fund are that this program is expected to scale over time. The proposed Phase 1 of Edmonton Edge Fund will be a $5 million grant program to fund local companies who are exploring new and large-scale projects in Edmonton. Administration will bring forward an unfunded service package, if directed, for the Edge Fund Phase 1 to the 2023-2026 budget deliberations with a proposed funding source of the COVID-19 funds of the Financial Stabilization Reserve. The total funding available to the Edge Fund may evolve as administration learns from Phase 1, and funding from other governments will become available. So if funding is approved by Council, our next steps would be to step up and set up an advisory committee that would include Edmonton Global, Edmonton Unlimited, and other partners to develop the roadmap to implement and roll out this program. We expect that by the second quarter of 2023, we will have more details and the application process ready to go. Then we'll return to Council in 2024 early on to report on the program uptake and the outcomes and the learnings that we've made. This work intends to continue to build Edmonton into the most vibrant and prosperous city in Canada. We're pleased to answer any questions that you might have about the Edmonton Edge Fund.
Thank you so much. If you will please step back and we'll go to members of the public. But before I do that, I do want to welcome some students from grade 6 class from Kim Hung School, which is in Ward Sipi-Winiwak. You're represented by Councillor Hamilton, and they are here with the teacher Jeff Webster. Welcome to City Hall. We are going to be talking about how we unlock innovation in our city and how we support your creative ideas that you can put them into action when you're ready to do so. Cool. All right. Okay. I'm going to call the names up. Please, Kyle Consorada in person. Kyle, you'll be seated number 1. Aisha Datar in person. Aisha, you'll be number 2. Chris Casson in person. Chris, are you there? You'll be number 3. Seetal Mehta Wallish joining remotely. Seetal, you'll be number 4. Adam Brown joining remotely. Adam, are you there?
I'm here, yep.
You'll be number 5. Zach Storms in person. Zach, I don't see Zach in person. Are you online, Zach? No, not here. Cheryl Watson in person. Cheryl, are you joining us in person or virtually? Okay, Cheryl is not here. Zach is not here. Thomas D. Haas in person. Thomas, you'll be number 5 then. Sorry, 6. Each of you will have 5 minutes to make your presentation. The timers on the edge there, right? On the green light will start your time. Yellow means that you are getting to 4 minutes, and red means your 5 minutes are up. So please go ahead, and I'll start with Kyle. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Kyle Constrata. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Innovation at Keller Construction. Keller was founded here in Edmonton in 1962 and currently employs over 100 people working on diverse projects across Western Canada. Retail petroleum construction has been a core strength of Keller since the beginning, and we have long established relationships with the major retailers in that space. As many of our clients are beginning their journey to new sustainable business models, we're on a similar mission at Keller, doing what we can to disrupt and innovate an industry that has been largely untouched by innovation. When we talk about sustainability and everything that it encompasses, just a tiny gain in efficiencies in construction can have an immediate, measurable impact. Our cost of living is directly tied to the cost of construction. The lack of innovation in this industry and complacency with the status quo is costing our community. The problem is that the industry operates in a fishbowl, untouched and out of reach of innovators in other countries. So change in this industry will need to be forced locally, and that's what we're trying to do at Keller. Proving out a way to do things better, collaborating with others who want to affect the same change. And for those in the industry who don't think the industry needs to change, we'll make an economic case for it. In the future, I see construction beginning with digital simulations, starting with data. The City of Edmonton has the Open Data Portal Initiative with immense amounts of data that can be used to do all sorts of simulations and optimizations to reduce our cost of infrastructure. Imagine all that data fed into a video game similar to SimCity, creating a dynamic digital replica of the city. The data feeding this model is historical, but the advances in machine learning techniques is possible to project into the future how the city is most likely to evolve under various scenarios. Developers can analyze parcels of land, optimize land use based on trending demographics and various other leading indicators that weren't possible to consider in a model until recently. Building designs can be simulated millions of times over until the optimal design is revealed, all done in a virtual environment with no additional costs in the real world. Every single aspect of the construction cycle, from zoning to design to actual physical construction, can be simulated and optimized millions of times over. With instructions fed into the real world, into manufacturing, robotics, and other new innovative techniques. This sounds like it's 50 years away, but it's already happening. There's startups and there's companies doing this around the world, and we're just not seeing it here yet in Canada. So we've been doing this in Keller now for just over a year, and from what I've seen, there's just so much knowledge at the University of Alberta and our other academic institutions here. Just have immense amounts of resources similar to 3M and their R&D department. And I think the city can look at our ecosystem as more of a vertically integrated system, codependent, and how do we leverage the research being done, publicly funded at these universities, pull that out, commercialize it, upgrade our businesses, and then also spin off into new sectors. Our approach at Keller has been threefold. We pursue innovations that make our operations safer and more sustainable. We look for new solutions that create value for our clients and stakeholders. And lastly, a little bit more altruistically, we look for new ideas that we believe will benefit society and the industry, and we engage directly with academics, provide them with a sandbox and even funding to get these ideas off the ground. And that's where I see the EDGE Fund potentially stepping in. How can the city source solutions from the University of Alberta, from NAIT, from our other academic institutions, provide the funding to turn these ideas into proof of concept, and then leverage our existing business ecosystem to take it from there, using their areas of expertise, their existing infrastructure, their supply chain, and their client base. Once the city provides that market validation, proof of concept, outside capital will more freely flow in, and businesses will be able to leverage that technology and then also export it to other markets. In conclusion, I see an opportunity here in Edmonton to produce a knowledge supply chain. So that involves taking ideas from the university and upgrading it every step of the way until we're refining it to a commercializable product. And I believe the EDGE Fund can do a big part in making this a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next we will go to Aisha Datar.
Thank you very much. I have some slides to share.
Give us one moment to get them loaded.
No problem.
Here we go.
Alrighty. So hello everyone, my name is Isha Datar, and today I'm going to be talking about cellular agriculture, a game-changing industry that could find its home here in my city of Edmonton. Next slide. What is cellular agriculture? Cellular agriculture is food made from cells. You may have heard of meat or milk or eggs made without animals. These are all cellular agriculture products. The climate potential of these products is enormous. Early estimates of the cell-cultured beef in particular suggest that compared to conventional beef, it would require 96% less water to produce, 99% less land, and produce 96% fewer greenhouse gas emissions. So we often think about an energy transition, especially related to Alberta, but the protein transition is absolutely an untapped potential. I believe that cellular agriculture is a technological advancement that could build incredible resilience in our food system. Next slide, please. I run a nonprofit organization called New Harvest. We operate globally and are based here in Edmonton, and we focus on building the cellular agriculture ecosystem. And this ecosystem has grown incredibly from literally zero to over $5 billion of investment and over 110 companies globally in less than 10 years. Next slide, please. How do you build a new tech industry from scratch? Well, we do it through unconventional approaches that maximize our nonprofit investments. We cultivate our researchers like entrepreneurs. We give them, not their institution, but them directly, the support they need to achieve their goals. And what that leads to is incredible leadership in the space, not only in the private sector, but also in the public sector. Next slide, please. So far, New Harvest has made 53 catalytic grants to 36 institutions worldwide, driving the innovation engine of this new field. So we've been absolutely global in scope in the way that we support this research from a nonprofit perspective. Next slide, please. The impact of these catalytic grants is enormous follow-on public and private investment and the creation of highly qualified personnel and jobs across the public and private sectors. My organization alone has brought in over half of the investment in the field, creating at least 1,000 jobs through a combination of catalytic investment and leadership empowerment. You will not meet someone who is growing food from cells who has not received early funding from New Harvest or relied on our research or hired our people. Here in Edmonton, Future Fields has been a local success story that we've been part of. We provided some funding to them before they were even Future Fields, and that's a story that we can replicate and diversify locally. Next slide, please. So why am I standing or sitting here today? Because Edmonton, my home, holds all the cards needed to lead and grow long-term international cellular agriculture development. We have the right people and the right institutions, leading institutions in biological sciences and in the agriculture sector. We have the abundance of the Canadian prairies, which is going to grow all of the inputs related to cellular agriculture. The prairies feed the world today, but they are absolutely going to be feeding the world in a climate-changed world. And we also have two international ecosystem leaders right here in the city. Myself with New Harvest and North America's only publicly traded fund dedicated entirely to cellular agriculture is also based here. The fact is, this emergent industry currently has no home, and there are 100-some companies worldwide who are soon going to be considering scaling up and buying trainfuls of sugar to feed their processes. Those trains are going to come off the prairies, and I want cellular agriculture to happen in Canada, not to Canada. We have a moment right now to build this field locally and attract globally, and my goal is to create the home of cellular agriculture here in Edmonton. Next slide. I want to do this by setting up the flagship Center for Excellence here. We'll continue reimagining how technology advances to make the most of our philanthropic dollars from my organization, plus the investment dollars of my local partners. But this Center for Excellence will only thrive with support from the city, the province, and the country. The next steps for this field are very big infrastructure investments, and I've been spending the past 5 years building this field in the US, relying on kind of international philanthropy from individual donors, but I want to leverage that track record to make change here. So my organization needs allies locally, and we need a spark to get our Canadian momentum going. Last slide. My nonprofit organization is 100% bootstrapped, 100% philanthropy from individual people. I started an organization that funds science as someone without a benefactor, without family money, someone who is able to come up in Edmonton because of its amazing public infrastructure, social infrastructure, incredible education, as we can see here in the room today. For this work to take its next big step, we need to grow on top of the philanthropy that we have so far with government support. And I'd love for the EDGE Fund to be the spark that kicks off cellular agriculture's next phase of growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Isha. Next, we will go to Chris Cassin.
I as well have a presentation. There was no questions? That was fantastic.
We will come to questions later on. We'll hear from all of you, then questions. Yes.
Oh.
We're just getting the presentation loaded.
Okay.
And don't you worry, there'll be a lot of questions.
Excellent. I don't think that's loaded properly. So that's the presenter's view. So what we need to see is the actual presentation.
Maybe not, I don't know.
Excellent. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. At 0 Point Cryogenics, we are thankful that the City of Edmonton is helping to build a safe and vibrant community. I'm here today to talk about 0 Point Cryogenics, why we are important to the Edmonton economy, quantum computing, national security, and the challenges we face in bringing our technology to the world market. My name is Chris Casson, and this is the beginning of the quantum computing gold rush. At 0 Point Cryogenics, we are building the shovel. Next slide. Moore's law has come to an end. Quantum computing is the next step in the evolution of computers and technology and will likely revolutionize the perception of what we currently believe is possible. Traditional computers use billions of transistors, which can either be on or off, creating patterns of ones and zeros. When you string enough of these ones and zeros together, you can solve more and more complex problems. We are currently constrained by the fact that a bit can only be a 1 or a 0. However, quantum computers do not use bits. They use something called qubits, and a single qubit is not confined to a single state like a bit is. As a result, a qubit can be a 1, a 0, or anything in between at the exact same time. The result is a computer that is exponentially faster than traditional computers and capable of solving a very unique set of very complex problems. Next slide. The majority of quantum computing architectures operate at a temperature below 273 degrees Celsius and therefore require a dilution refrigerator in order to operate. Currently, there are only 2 established commercial dilution refrigerator companies in the world, and they are located in England and Finland. Quantum computing has been identified by the developed world as a technology that is critical to national security for its ability to advance cryptography, among other things, leaving countries that do not advance these technologies vulnerable to attack. North America represents over 50% of the world market for quantum computing, and there is not yet a market leader in the manufacture of dilution refrigerators that represents this market that is at scale. Further, Canada is a world leader in quantum computing. Next slide. We build reliable, purpose-built dilution refrigerators for quantum computing, academia, and government. We build these units in Edmonton because the University of Alberta is a leader not only in quantum computing, but also one of only 6 universities in the world that can achieve temperatures as low as 600 microkelvin, and as a result, attracts talent from all over the world in quantum computing, particle physics, and cryogenics. Our systems are incredibly complex, requiring hundreds of thousands of dollars in parts, and are built by highly skilled professionals. The very same professionals that are working in our oil and gas industry and that we are training and mentoring at NAIT and the University of Alberta. The majority of our staff are and will be STEM employees. In under a year, we have grown to 13 employees and will be accelerating our growth in the next year. Next slide. There are currently 5 primary companies in the world that build dilution refrigerators, with only 2 of them operating at commercial scale. Our largest direct competitor by market size had revenues of over $410 million US last year. The world market for quantum computing is currently estimated to be $486 million, growing at over 30% per year, and is estimated to hit $3.18 billion by 2028. These are the countries and companies currently advancing quantum and investing over $28 billion into the industry. All of these names you see here will require dilution refrigerators. What are our challenges as an early stage company? Our systems are costly to build and have a sales cycle of up to 18 months. The cost to our customers for a single system are $400,000 to $750,000 US. We have already sold our products to customers in Canada and the United States, and we are in conversations with customers in India, Switzerland, Germany, the UK, Australia, and Israel. Long lead times and incredibly high upfront costs makes manufacturing our technology difficult. Since the majority of the opportunities we are exploring are international, it is even more difficult as there are risks in addressing international markets. We are too early in the development of our product for traditional banks to provide us with financing, even though we have millions in inventory and POs. Access to capital is a major challenge, and we are doing our best to overcome it. We are currently diversifying the economy and helping to identify Edmonton as a world leader in cryogenics. In the next 12 months, we want to grow from 13 employees to 30. If there's an opportunity to do that with the City of Edmonton's help, it would be greatly appreciated. We are proud to call Edmonton home as we build a new industry and strive to create hundreds of high-paying technical and research jobs in the coming years. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Next, we will go to Seetal Mehta Walsh. Seetal, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Sheetal Mehta Walsh. I am an investor, a founder, a board member, an experienced innovator for 25 years globally. I also serve on the board of Edmonton Global and was on the inaugural board of Innovate Edmonton, and I currently serve as the senior advisor to the University of Alberta's President's Office. In that regard, I want to talk about how the deal flow and companies and potential spinouts from the university are very well positioned. The companies that come out of the university are at a very, very, very early stage. Many of them need early supports and guidance and tools and resources in order to be able to go forward for risk funding. In this capacity, the startups that we have been working with are very well positioned because we're really looking at areas of excellence that come from the university, which include social impact, AI, health, agriculture, and energy. The centers of excellence within the university are very synergistic within the centers of excellence in the city of Edmonton. And having returned to our city after 25 years and lived in over 5 different ecosystems that are extremely innovative, I still call us the city of champions from an innovation perspective, because the things I see here at home, I have not seen in London, in San Francisco, or in Dubai. So I'm very proud that we do have an innovation ecosystem here. It is very crucial as we access companies from the university that we have strategic partnerships with the city. In the capacity of the EDGE Fund, I'm highly in support of this, as is the president of the University of Alberta, because we see that early student involvement in technology startups, as well as education, will position not only our university, our students, and our citizens of our city in a strategic way, but it'll also allow us to create businesses that are going to provide social impact, not only locally, but also globally. I'm going to be short and very concise here in that saying I find the EDGE Fund team has been extremely inclusive in putting together the proposal. They have considered all stakeholders in our city and have been very collaborative in identifying the way forward. It's crucial to have early access to capital. It's crucial to diminish financial barriers within our city, and financial inclusion is key. I feel very strongly that if the EDGE Fund does move forward, or when it moves forward, that we as a post-secondary institution will be all hands on deck to support the fund and to ensure that companies that are coming out of the university have a place to access smart funding earlier on. That smart funding earlier on from the EDGE Fund will not only help kickstart companies, but it will also allow the University of Alberta to invest our innovation strategy in the process and in the journey of the entrepreneurs, 2 of which we've just heard from, who we know very well. The opportunity for the EDGE Fund to provide this early stage capital will also result in attracting investment from other countries into the city of Edmonton. And that is crucial for scaling these businesses, but also for impacting our citizens so that they can really unlock the creativity that Mayor Sohi announced at the beginning of the meeting. We are very much in support of the EDGE Fund, and we would very much like to partner as a PSI with the fund as it gets going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Seetal. Next, we will go to Adam Brown, joining remotely.
Hi there. I have some very basic slides. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I took a little different approach, I guess, to my conversation with you today, taking a very local, personal journey. Just see if my slides will pop up or not. The Edmonton EDGE Fund. Either way, I can kick over. A little about me. I was lucky enough to be a Juno-winning musician with the band Striker. You know, I have 2 degrees from the University of Alberta, MBA, my BCom, top 40 under 40 in Edmonton. I spent several years as a CEO of a nanotech company, pitching to NASA, Samsung, Sony. I spent a year with Wyvern, a satellite company based in Edmonton, who's raised $20 million in the last year. And I just recently moved over to 48-Hour Discovery, startup TNT winners, who are essentially creating the earliest stages towards curing new cancers. And why I want to talk to you is because, you know, in my time at Striker, this band that went on to win a Juno, the support from the Edmonton Arts Council was absolutely fundamental. You know, we had the Edmonton Music Prize, the Edmonton Arts Council, that funding really gave us a hometown advantage. It really built the foundation that allowed Stryker to go off and, achieve some of the biggest things you could do in the music industry, like play some of the biggest festivals in the world. And it wasn't just Stryker, it was many other local musicians. So I understand that this local impact from a grant can be truly game-changing in kind of the trajectory of where these organizations can go. And why it's important is because innovation is a lot bigger than the music world. The opportunity is massive. So, the trajectory of innovation is this nice hockey stick, and that's going to bring lots of money to the city and lots of excitement. And I think it's really about, we need that local stamp to really give that hometown advantage to there's so many great startups, like many of them spoke today. But it's like, you need that hometown advantage to have your roots, and then that will help attract more talent, attract more investment. So this Edge Fund, I really think, is about building the roots. It's about giving startups a head start compared to everyone else. It's giving us that competitive edge. And so I also think like there's a massive opportunity, like when you get a grant from, say, the city of Edmonton, it's a huge stamp of approval. It's a very validating thing, more than just the money. So you can go to investors and you can say, hey, look, city of Edmonton gave us, X number of dollars, $100,000, and it helps validate to these investors that other people believe in you, that there's an ecosystem there that can support you. That money is often spent bringing, attracting great talent to Edmonton, like at Wyvern. People are moving to Edmonton in very technical roles, technical project managers, So it's like we're attracting this really fine talent to Edmonton with this innovation funding. And also there's programs like Startup TNT, I'm sure they'll be speaking next, but with investment, you allow, like, investors can feel more safe if they know that there's other avenues to drive investment in Edmonton. And so, and this once again is just technology to change the world. It's the earliest drug discovery to fight cancer. It's satellite images that scale across the globe to measure methane and to improve agriculture. It's sustainable biomanufacturing for the future. It's solving dysphagia. Like, there's immense opportunity coming out of Edmonton. And so I'd say, I think, the Edge Fund is a much needed and I think highly desired fund from the entire startup community that I have had the pleasure to meet within my time. And thank you for considering us and the fund.
Thank you so much. You can email us your slide deck if you wish. Next, we will go to Thomas DeHaas.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. My name is Tom DeHaas. I'm the Chief Technology Officer and a co-founder at Interface Fluidics. We're a venture-backed startup company based here in Edmonton, and we've raised over $15 million in venture funding. Our company, we build laboratory instrumentation based off of microfluidics that analyzes fluid samples for the energy industry really quickly. And there's a couple of core advantages that we've seen in being in Edmonton. In fact, the reason we were originally based in Calgary and moved to Edmonton is because of the nanofabrication facility at the University of Alberta called NanoFab. This center really gave us the location in which we can fabricate our nanofluidic and microfluidic devices, and there's been a number of other companies we've seen that have used this to grow. However, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all to start a hardware company. At the beginning of our company, for example, we relied heavily on family and friends funding, as well as personal savings from our previous roles in the oil and gas industry. And at this very, very early stage, we were transitioning technology from University of Toronto here to Edmonton, and it's really, really challenging to find investors that are willing to believe in you at that very nascent early stage. And that's where I think that this type of funding would really, really benefit companies. I've seen through my time in the innovation ecosystem a number of companies that have left Alberta in order to go to the United States for just mainly it's the accessibility of capital. It's not the amazing ecosystem that we have here is great. So the challenge is really, I think, as a hardware startup to get this funding and support in order to build your company. For us, that money mostly came from family, friends, and then early on investment from the Calgary ecosystem. As we grew, I think some of the later stage investment is now coming online in Edmonton, which is amazing. When we were at the stage raising our Series A, it was mostly international money, the United States and Norway. But in closing, I really think that this fund would really help, especially capital-intensive hardware-based startups that are growing quickly in the city, to get a foothold and really attract people here, set down some roots, get some space, and start things off. I'm fully in favor of this.
Thank you so much. Next, we go to Zach Storms.
Hi. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. My name is Zach Storms, and I'm really excited to speak today.
Here you go.
I'll speak a little quieter. Okay, anyways, listen, this is a really exciting opportunity for me. On May 16th, 2019, I launched a happy hour here in Edmonton called Startup TNT. TNT stands for Thursday Night Tradition because we meet every single week to have fun, make friends, and build companies together with entrepreneurs, investors, scientists, all members of the innovation community. Most of the people at this table have been to Startup TNT. And actually, we're having it this week. It's happening tomorrow. It's week 185. I often joke that I think the most impressive thing I've ever done is to launch a happy hour that's run consecutively for 185 weeks. But you know what? When we first launched that happy hour, I always wanted to one day help build an actual seed fund that could provide capital at the early stages of startup development here in Edmonton in perpetuity to serve our entrepreneurs. And it's really exciting to be able to tell you that you're on the cusp of being able to pass just that fund or the starting point for that fund right now. I wasn't in the position to raise a fund back then, so instead, I got together a bunch of other Edmontonians that were willing to put $5,000 together to invest in local companies. And by collecting $5,000 checks, we have now raised $2.8 million for 21 companies from 127 investors, almost all of them Edmontonians, right here in our city. And you know, a lot of them are actually here today. Chris Casson has raised money at Startup TNT. Adam Brown just raised money at Startup TNT. Isha mentioned Future Fields. They raised money at Startup TNT. Entrepreneurs of all kinds are receiving money from Edmontonians at these very early stages of development. And they're really impressive companies. Companies like Future Fields and Wyvern raised money at Startup TNT before they went to Y Combinator. And it's just really impressive to be able to get a community together to support our entrepreneurs. Those 21 companies were mostly pre-revenue when we invested. 11 of them are spin-offs from the University of Alberta or built their technology in partnership with the University of Alberta. That's an impressive statistic to have this many Edmontonians investing in U of A spin-off companies. Together, they now employ over 220 people and have raised $40 million in follow-on funding since we've invested. I say all this to share the impact that our local startup community is having. This is actually only a slice, the small slice that we've invested in of our startup community here in Edmonton. And so I think that right now with the Edge Fund, you have the opportunity to put more fuel into our ecosystem and complement some of the work that many organizations are doing. You know, when I look around the room here, I look at people like New Harvest, I look at people like Sheetal, I look at the entrepreneurs here that could all benefit from this Edge Fund. You can think of it as not everyone, in fact, probably 99% of us don't have a wealthy family member that's going to drop $100,000 into our startup IT to get it off the ground. But the Edmonton Edge Fund could make the community more inclusive. It could provide capital to people like that. And I actually think you're getting it right. The city administration has got it right in terms of how to start this fund. The mayor had a $100 million goal, and I fully support that goal. But starting off with something small, with $5 million run by the city, you can learn fast, you can iterate, you can be entrepreneurial, you can get this fund off the ground in months, not years. I think a common mistake we make is to try and go big and go home. You have the opportunity to go small, learn before you go big. I think I might have hit all my points. I just have to say, on a personal level, me and many people in the room would be happy to share thoughts and advice if this fund goes through on the learnings we've had. I have a lot of experience in the community trying to put together grants similar to this one or applying for grants similar to this one, and I'm sure many other people in our community would be happy to weigh in with their expertise and their knowledge to make sure that this is a success. And, you know, I sometimes think back to the words actually that Stephanie McCabe used when you guys first set up $5 million in funding for the new Edmonton Innovates, which is it's an opportunity to ensure more of our innovation dollars are going directly into the entrepreneurs and the community members that can really make things happen. And this fund allows you to really expand that reach to a broader community.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. I'll actually check back again if Cheryl Watson is joining us, just to make sure. No, she's not? Okay, got it. All right, questions to our panelists. Okay, Councillor Rice, you selected this. And let me, here, go ahead. You have questions, Councillor? Okay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, everybody, and taking time and then come here to speak. I do feel your passion. I think that is bringing a different energy to our room, and thank you so much for that. The first question I would like to go to Mr. Consorida. So hopefully I pronounce your last name right. So I really appreciate you brought a good idea about the data technology, and because that is most important evidence and for us to make a decision, and also about how we commercial the research products and put it into the market, and then also knowledge supply chain, and that is all the economics, and then I know we need and for our city. But my question to you is about this. Do you have sense the current our city's grant, because our city and always supports economic development for the city, and the current grant is not enough? And then is there any improvement you would like to say? And can you provide more specific?
Yeah, sure. So I guess from just firsthand experience, we've been working with a few different researchers out of the University of Alberta with some ideas. And when we engage with our clients, a lot of them are large publicly traded companies. The traditional grant processes are very administrative, they take too long, and they want to move very quickly, to the point where if we come to them with a proposal and say, hey, here's some cool research happening at the U of A, we think this would improve your operations in this capacity. And then if the next step is, okay, now we have to apply for a grant, it's going to take 6 months or a year, the conversation pretty much ends. They kind of lose interest. A lot of times if it's $5,000 or $10,000, they'll just offer it out of pocket to get the program going. So I guess kind of in a roundabout way, I think we need something that's very, very lightweight, very fast and efficient, so that businesses can make decisions quickly, take it back to their board or to their stakeholders, and not have to worry about drawn out processes for grant funding.
Okay, and then I think I have more questions come back to you, and I would like to move to Mr. Braun, Adam. So you actually mentioned about if this fund approved, we actually send the verified message to the investor to strengthen their confidence and for investment in our city. Do you still think our city have the gap for that? And then with the existing all the grants and city provided for the economic development and innovation?
Yeah, I would say, I've had the pleasure of going to Toronto and Waterloo, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Seoul, South Korea. I've been to a lot of companies, and I have, there are opportunities in Edmonton, no doubt. Alberta Innovates, great grant funding potential, but honestly, there's never enough. And especially as an early stage startup, I think what the Edmonton Ed Fund is proposed is actually filling a major gap. Like for that kind of like, you know, it's like you're not quite a baby, but you're not quite an adult. It's like that stage, right? And I think when you look at, say, you know, starting, you have 20 investors in Edmonton going to invest in 48-hour discovery. But if those invest new, an innovation grant, you know, that's going to say double their investment. So they get a 2-for-1. Like all those investors are going to feel much more excited, much more confident in A, 48-hour to scale, and then B, that their money is going to kind of like leverage into a bigger opportunity. So I would say that I have seen the best probably touring the world, and you know, Edmonton, we're number, what are we, the 5th biggest city in Canada? So I mean, like, we're pulling our weight, but I just think this fund is actually positioning us in a great way to help fill that gap.
Thank you. And then I don't have enough time to ask my next question. And as Mayor Sohi, I will come to the next round for my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Stevenson.
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks to all of the speakers. I'm always blown away at what's happening in our community, and I thank you all for the amazing work that you're doing in your respective fields, but also for our city as a whole. So thank you. Thanks so much. And my questions, again, if they may come across as skeptical, and I just want to be clear that I really want to find the right way to support innovation in our communities. So bear with me through the questions. So maybe just starting with Seatal, I was wondering, you know, really appreciated how you spoke about the team being really collaborative. My question is the city the right place for this fund to live? Is it the right partner to be holding this program?
Thank you very much for your question. I absolutely spent about 6 to 8 months reviewing that exact question. There are so many stakeholders in our community that could host a fund like this. The reason I do think it is important within the City of Edmonton is that we really do owe this to our citizens in the city. And I think we need to position ourselves appropriately, not against other cities, but collaborating with other cities. And so I feel very, very strongly that this is actually a very, as Zach rightly pointed out, the amount, it's not too risky. It's still putting some skin in the game, but it's showing that we're trying to create a track record and that we are really, really, you know, taking that bound and leap to put trust into our future entrepreneurs. And I think the size is also very relevant and important because it's going to be welcoming to potential companies that otherwise would not have been able to access grant funding. The other systems that are in place for grant funding are available. We know they work, but in collaborating with the team who's put this together, we realize and appreciate that the city is uniquely positioned to create a more inclusive and accessible application process. And that is why I'm really passionate about this fund being hosted with the city. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think that's really important perspective, and I appreciate that insight. Well, and maybe, you know, again, I'm also thinking about how we do potentially scale and grow this fund, recognizing that, again, as a city, we have financial constraints as an organization. So just wondering if, like maybe to Zach, in terms of those $5,000 checks, were those, you know, absolute no strings attached, no expectation of return, granted like, or again, I'm wondering, like, can we structure this as more of an investment that doesn't necessarily, again, maybe the city gets some dividends, but maybe it actually, the investment grows the fund even larger?
Yeah, I think long-term, that's how it should be structured. And I think that that's probably a question for City Council, which is, do you want to start doing that structure right off the bat, or do you want to get started with something small to figure some things out and then move to that structure in the future, which is look like the direction City Administration has recommended, and I think that's a fine option to take. For us at Startup TNT, we are writing checks to get actual investment into companies with the expectation of a return.
Okay, no, that's helpful, and I think you're right. We don't necessarily have to answer all the questions right off the bat, but maybe a model for us to consider as we move forward. And then sort of a contradictory question, but maybe Isha, I know, again, speaking about some of the really exciting opportunities for the Center of Excellence, I mean, I guess my other question is, like, is $5 million enough? It just sounds like the aspirations of our community are huge, which is great, and is $5 million enough to support those?
So my nonprofit would never rely just on the support of one entity. And when I talk about our kind of transition as an organization from a philanthropically supported one into one that has more government support, that is really on a global level. Like, we believe that this needs to be a network of excellence, actually, with centers all over the world. And so we're working on that in different jurisdictions as well, such as the Netherlands and in the US. But having that initial spark that plants something in Edmonton means so much. And a unique opportunity that we have here is we actually have a postdoc who is tenure track faculty position who we could place tomorrow, and I don't want to place him anywhere else in the world. I want him to be here in Edmonton. And so the Center for Excellence could be very big, but it could start just with that one person. And once you place that PI, you're suddenly eligible for so many more provincial and federal grant opportunities. So no, $5 million is not enough, and I actually wouldn't even expect the whole $5 million, because I would hope that we would be sharing it across the ecosystem, but just enough to plant those kind of little key pieces that unlock further funding is what I'm looking for.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you all so much again for the presentations and the work you do.
Yeah, thank you again for your passion and time that you have given us today, and also engaging with the city in this discussion. I want to start with Adam Brown. I was really struck by your comment about having that stamp of the city, like having that validation. It is not just the money; it is the community behind it, right? Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely. And, you know, it's like, as a startup, you always want to show traction. You always want to show you're growing. You always want to show people believe in you. And it was the same in Stryker, in a band. You know, it's like, if we get the city of Edmonton to invest, it's so much easier to get the next grant at the national level, at the provincial level. And I think it's the exact same thing in the startup community. So it's like, the money is amazing. Don't get me wrong. You can hire people, you can build products, you can market, you can, you know, really create a competitive edge with more capital, right? But it's also this stamp that you're going to take to, you know, your Series A seed round and say, look, we just got, you know, $500,000 from the city of Edmonton. We've raised capital at Startup TNT. You need to invest in us, right? Mm-hmm. Look at all these people that believe in us, and look at the community. And like, you know, it's like we're coming from a place of innovation. I think that's another exciting aspect. Yeah. So that's definitely, I think, very powerful.
Yeah, no, thank you. I did extensive engagement with the community during the campaign, and one thing that came up quite a bit, and that's why we proposed to create the Innovation Fund, was that, and this is to Zach, a lot of people struggle with that initial cash, right? Even few $100,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, that they just don't have the money because they don't come from a wealthy family. Or I just want you to speak to that, because that came up so much during the consultation that I did, from particularly from newcomers, racialized communities, or you know, people from the indigenous communities that have young people have good ideas, but they just don't have the access to capital.
Yeah. Well said. And I'll just expand maybe a little bit on, if you think about this the way investors think about it, which is investors will invest small amounts of money, relatively small amounts of money, into dozens or even scores of companies, knowing that many of them won't work out, but the ones that do work out are going to produce a massive return on investment. And at the point that most investors are ready to make those decisions, the company has to be put together enough to make a decision. With the Edge Fund, you're actually, you know, you have the ability to invest at these very early days, that kind of friends and family pre-seed stage, when the company is really built around the founder with an idea and maybe some very initial traction. And that's a really, really hard place to raise money. You know, and if you look at data from Start Alberta, which is this great resource that shows data across the ecosystem, one of my friends from Calgary Brian Slacko at Matiqui Equity, he's run an analysis and compared how much pre-seed investment is happening in cities like Edmonton and Calgary compared to places like Austin, whose startup communities are much more advanced. And, you know, we're like an order of magnitude below in terms of activity. And so we absolutely want to get more private investors taking the plunge, but something like the Edge Fund could help catalyze some of that activity before some of the private investors are ready to take that plunge.
Yeah, it's not like, I see it also in kind of an equity lens too, right? That not everyone have access to capital, particularly, you know, low-income, middle-class families, if they want to support, because they don't have that cash. So I think that I heard that quite a bit. I didn't see it that way before hearing from people. I was more about, you know, people need access to cash. Everyone have kind of same challenges, but I heard that, you know, people who don't have the resources struggle more, and their ideas never come to materialize. Maybe you want to comment on that, Isha?
Yes, I'd love to build on it a little bit. I think the brilliance of Startup TNT is that they actually pull money out of the Edmonton community to support the Edmonton community. So I would never look at the Edmonton Edge Fund and think that $5 million is actually going to do much. If we think of it as the city is an investor, I think that's actually maybe an inappropriate lens to think about the fund. To speak to your question about should Edmonton be running this, I don't think the city should be an investor. I think the city should think about how can we elevate the investor community. And to speak to your point about, you know, not everyone comes from these rich families or whatever, on the flip side, a lot of people in Edmonton have come into wealth because we live in such an amazing community, and I would say the money is relatively new compared to other ecosystems in the world. And so the importance of actually training individuals here to learn how to become an investor and to learn how their individual role as someone who does have $5,000 to spend and they can use it to catalyze the city is really important. And the idea that you could even train investors to give $5,000 is unique in the world. Usually that is a very gate-kept world, investors. Investors don't want other investors to come in except for Zach. So it's very game-changing, that approach.
Good. Thank you so much once again for sharing your thoughts with you, Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. So my next question is going to Mr. Denhalas. And so from your experience in Edmonton, and what do you see the specific gaps in our existing ecosystem here, and from policy supporting perspective, and then also from attraction perspective, to attract investor perspective, and to that specific, you talk about transfer knowledge.
So I would say that there's two parts that we found challenging. One is that Edmonton has a whole bunch of really powerful resources like NanoFab at University of Alberta, which I'll highlight, and we came in from outside the university ecosystem, from University of Toronto to here, and established our company here. I think that support for people that are bringing technology into the city from outside of just the universities inside the city is one thing. The other one is, like, I think most of the people here have highlighted that it's really hard to get money when you're just a person with an idea, and I think that the city also has these resources like the data that you were talking about. There might be other ways that people could partner with the city and create extra value by, you know, getting access to certain data sets or partnering with city agencies. So, but for us, it was that we needed to build a lab in order to deliver results to our first customer. And it's really hard to get the money to build a lab to deliver that. You know, you sort of think it's a chicken and egg problem. And so we relied heavily on family and friends to cross that gap.
So that means we need to continue to build that gap, and then it's not just, to your point, as an investor and to play that role. Yeah, thank you for that. So my next question is going to Ms. Mita Walsh. So you specifically about this student early startup, and then I do believe the value and for student involved this early startup stage, and then so it's my understanding we we do have the support, existing supports, and in the system to support that. And so what do you see the difference this new funding could bring on the top of existing support for students' early startup?
Thank you. So the University of Alberta has restructured, as you all know, and our VP for Research and Innovation has created new systems and new processes to engage students, not only in terms of commercializing IP and creating spinouts, but also education and entrepreneurship programs, finance for founders, and other programming educational opportunities. So the reason the fund would be very helpful for student involvement is not only to set up new startups and to create new spinouts, but also to gain experience through valuable internships. So if you could imagine the fund funding some up-and-coming new startups, we would be able to put a partnership in place where we can access a very large number of talented students who are the future of Edmonton. We don't want them to leave the city or the province. We would like them to stay here. If they're not going to join corporations or large industry businesses for their careers, we would love them to innovate and start new businesses. So even the opportunity to have early learnings through internships and placements within some of these startups that get grant funding from the Edge Fund could be very, very valuable. Thank you.
Thank you for that. The last question I have.
I think time is up.
Oh, there is no time tracking. So I do have one last question.
Go ahead.
So my last question to Zach and Mr. Storms, and I love your passion, and your voice reflects that. And so the one quick question: do you have the ratio and between the first put in money, and you talk about the 5,000, and then for the return and how much attract investor? Do you have that specific ratio from quantitative perspective?
You mean the return on investment of that initial?
Yes, and then because right now the 5 million is not the big money to support, we just give to little for each one, and what is return? And then do we, based on your experience, because you support so many companies, and what's his ratio for that return?
Well, sure. I mean, I'll speak in generalities first. So when investors look at investing in a portfolio of, say, 20 or 40 companies, they're usually trying to get like at least a 2 to 3x return overall on their portfolio. But it often takes about 5 to 10 years to realize that, because these are really relatively long-term investments. So at Startup TNT, our first investment was less than 3 years ago. And actually, the very first company that raised money at Startup TNT was a company called Drug Bank, which is a spinoff from the University of Alberta. And they just raised $9 million. I think I'm not probably at liberty to say, but it's safe to say that they raised money at a much higher valuation than we invested. And so investors haven't gotten the return yet, but some of those initial investments that we did are now raising money at higher valuations than we invested. And so it's kind of the unrealized return, the value of the company is going up. But again, it can take 5 to 10 years to actually get your capital back.
Thank you. Return back to you and Ms. Meir.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Stevenson.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up, Isha. I really appreciate your point about sort of the philosophy that underpins how the city becomes involved. And again, my understanding as I start to learn more about the innovation space is that, failing fast is actually something that's really important in the ecosystem. And I think, with all due respect and affection for our organization, I think sometimes, once we've invested in an organization, we maybe want to keep investing. It just needs a little bit more time to get off the ground. And so just wondering what advice and frame we should take in terms of having that healthy ruthlessness that helps successful projects succeed. Again, creating the opportunities, helping those that need it, but again, not getting stuck in allowing something to kind of drag along that maybe isn't going to take off.
First of all, yes, it's very hard to spend money. It's very, very hard. And I have so many questions about how this fund would be managed, like who is making the decisions, how many people are involved in making the decisions. And what we have found as a regranter that has always had not enough money to spend and trying to make the most out of it, our approach has always been how do we support individuals in what they're trying to do and actually focus less on the project. But that requires a lot of engagement, a lot of connection, a lot of support, and I don't know if that, again, is something that's appropriate for the city to do. So if I were in your position, I would fund the funders. I would fund the people that are already tapped into networks that support Edmonton specifically, and let them be the decision makers to deploy that support locally. I think that makes them, that's probably what I would do in your situation. But of course, I am the funder, so there's that inherent conflict in me saying that. But it's very hard. You know, there are people who've been spending years understanding the community, understanding all the people, knowing where $5,000 is going to go further, just based on what someone's project is, how long you've known them, how long you've known they've been working on that project. So that would be kind of my short advice. And long advice I'm happy to give later.
No, that's great, and I think I mean that really resonates with me in terms of how we think about that. You know, any other thoughts? I don't know, Zach, if you want to weigh in on that, or just in terms of how we support without support in a way that builds success, I guess, rather than kind of.
Yeah, I think one way to look at this is, do grants help or hurt companies? Because I think you can, as an entrepreneur, become reliant on a grant, and it can, if you're handed a lot of money, you suddenly don't have to act quite the same way when you are scrappy and resource strapped. And so I think that's a healthy question. But that being said, I think that those concerns can be addressed. I don't think you should be giving absurd amounts of money to entrepreneurs. I think you should give them enough money to get started. Probably not as much money as they need. Make them still work for it. And you can also look at ways that you might complement existing investors. You know, just one way to think about this, or maybe one thing to think about, is a lot of provinces, except for Alberta, have something called a tax credit, where, and in Saskatchewan, it's a 50% tax credit. As an investor, if I invest in a startup, I get half my money back right away to kind of de-risk my investment and encourage me to invest in more startups. You could look at this as a way to de-risk the investment from another angle, where you're matching investor dollars, and the investor dollars are going farther for the startup. And I think that's a really interesting opportunity as a city, for example.
Yeah, fascinating. Thank you. Great to have all these ideas on the table as we shift to a conversation with our administration. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much. It was a great ideas, and you know, I think we got too much in, not too much. I think questions were on mechanism. I think first we have to create something, right? So I think we'll ask those questions to administration, how we get ahead on. I mean, how we move forward on creating a fund if council desires to do so. Once again, thank you so much for your passion, and thank you so much for engaging with us. Appreciate it. Okay. All right, questions to administration. Councillor Rice, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Sohi. So my first question is regarding the program model. So what's the specific, the key difference between this new funding program and to the existing grant program as you provided and in attachment 1?
None of our current grant programs actually fulfill this need that's been identified in the ecosystem. So it's completely different than the current programs that are in place.
So it's completely different. So can you specifically talk about what's the difference, and from like program criteria perspective, from application evaluation perspective, what's the key difference?
The key difference will be that this would be set up for companies to scale in Edmonton and for us to be able to support. When we were setting up Edmonton Unlimited, back 2 years ago, this was an identified need in the ecosystem to be able to support businesses, and I think you've heard from a number of them here today. And the idea is that this would be an additional program to give companies the edge in Edmonton. And it's a program that we have to develop the criteria still. We've set some draft criteria in the report. And we would do that with a business advisory committee that we'd set up. So I'd say there's a few things that would be different from our existing grant programs. One, there'd be a business advisory committee to help set it up. Two, Edmonton Global and Edmonton Unlimited will have a role in developing this program. Because we all work together to support businesses. And the third thing that would be different is that we would work to create a level of due diligence to make sure that we're creating an ecosystem where we can have companies that fail fast, but we can also create the ecosystem where companies can scale up in Edmonton. So I see this as actually quite fundamentally different than the current grant programs that we have, Councillor Rice.
Thank you for that comprehensive clarification. And also from criteria perspective, the company can apply for this fund and then it's cross-global. And I read that and in the report, or it's just only to the company for the local business company.
Can a company apply that meets the draft criteria?
Yeah. So it's cross-global and anybody can do that?
It can be, but we're going to start, because $5 million isn't a lot in this ecosystem. It really is a starting point. So we're going to start with a focus on local companies that are looking to scale. But long-term with the Business Advisory Committee, one thing I would look to them to advise us on, and I do think this is a need, but I need some more data on it, is companies that we're looking to attract to Edmonton as well. So as we scale this program, we could also scale the eligibility of the program. We could also scale it to be not just grants, but those are the things that we need to look at over the next 6 months if this was approved by Council.
Okay, and because this is listed as a one criteria is global and across a global company. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so next question related to the financial model. So for this program specific for financial model for the funding resources, I understand right now the proposed unfunded package is the funding source is from FSR, and right? And then from long-term perspective, how we determine the funding source to support this?
That's correct, that the funding source is the FSR right now, and we will be working on a long-term strategy. I would say that long-term strategy would leverage the city's dollars using other levels of government's funding, provincial and federal government, and we would come back to council with a longer-term strategy for the funding source on this, Councillor Rice.
Next question is about the governance model. The governance model specifically, we talk about advisory committee, and is there any additional cost for the advisory committee? And also you mentioned Edmonton Global, Edmonton Unlimited will play the role and in this, and is there additional funding resources provided to this committee or the additional cost from in-house?
We're going to use the $5 million to start this up and learn from this experience.
At this point, we would be asking the advisory committee to volunteer their time.
Okay.
But we need to figure out what the long-term governance model is associated with this, and if there would be any, if the advisory committee has a long-term role as well. So I don't know the answers to all of those questions at this point.
I know I even have so many questions because this is new, and I really want to make sure and we get in the place and to responsibly and to spend this money. That is why, and I still have question not finished yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is such an exciting opportunity, and I think as we heard earlier, there's lots of different ways that we could approach this. I really like that point about elevating the investor community, and is that a space that you think this $5 million would enable us? Because one question I have, and apologies if it's in the attachment. Is the $5 million all in, or it's $5 million plus resources for the staffing and other elements?
So it's $5 million all in, and yes, there's a potential for this to be used to elevate the investor community. But I do want to caution: if $5 million with a little bit of staff time is not a lot of money, and it's probably not going to be enough. So we've got to work to be able to scale this and to figure out exactly what it does. And I see that work being done over the next 6 months to a year and us coming back to council and advising more on that.
Great. Well, yeah, and I think for me, it's really thinking about that long-term self-sufficiency or sustainment of the fund. So again, wondering if there'll be an opportunity to explore how it can potentially grow itself through dividends, through investments.
Agreed. Yes, we'll look at that. I think there's probably a role still for granting as well in it, but there also is an opportunity for us to explore that. We don't have the answers to that yet.
Yeah, because it's interesting that there's a broad economic impact. It's all very positive. Really, again, I'm not a skeptic of the model. I think it makes a lot of sense. But in terms of how we as a city actually collect a direct yield back is through property tax, right? And I think that is a bit less direct. And not to say it's not justified, but again, I think that would constrain the degree to which we could grow the fund in the future. So if we can have more of that direct feedback mechanism, I think that helps support ongoing investment without a disproportionate pull from tax levy, I guess.
And if I may comment, sorry.
Yeah, please.
Agreed and understood. And what I would say is that setting this up first within administration as part of the governance model, and then really thinking long-term about what that governance model is and about how that fund can grow to support businesses in Edmonton will be a really important body of work for us to do. And Janice will be helping me a lot with that if this was approved by council over the next 6 months to a year.
Great. And just wondering, I appreciate, I think Kyle mentioned this idea of the knowledge supply chain. And I thought that was a really fascinating way to think through, and I don't know quite how to phrase this question, but are there ways that we can prioritize those key transition points, I guess? Like if someone is, research discovery has been made at the U of A, and just like thinking of that pipeline.
Absolutely. I'm not sure this fund can do everything, but that's something we can explore if there's with the Business Advisory Committee, if there's points at transitions at which companies might need more support than at other times. And I think that's why it's so important that Edmonton Unlimited has a role to play in this, because they are really here to support the ecosystem overall. We're going to work really closely with them and make sure that the supports that they provide, the knowledge that they're providing to the ecosystem, along with Edmonton Global as well, is used to inform this fund, but also used to support the work that they're also doing.
Great. And then, I think this is something that comes up, came up earlier this week in regards to another granting program. But how do you think we as an organization can manage to sort of grow our risk tolerance? Because again, I think this is a very different granting scenario than we're maybe typically used to. So just wondering what work we can do around that.
Agreed, and that's work we need to do with the Business Advisory Committee for sure, because there needs to be a level of due diligence here, because one of the really important things is that companies need to fail fast, and we shouldn't be putting money into companies that that should fail, quite frankly. And so there needs to be a level of, I'll use your word, ruthlessness to this fund. And so there needs to be a level of due diligence to manage that risk for certain levels of investment. At the same time, we need to be able to mobilize money as quickly as possible to be able to support a company. So that's a tension that we're going to have to work through with the Business Advisory Committee over the next year. And I would look to some outside advice on that and anticipate that part of that $5 million will go to help us actually answer that question in a more robust way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really excited for the work ahead. And thank you, Janice, as well.
No, thank you so much. Just to follow up on that, so the idea is that give support as nimbly, as quickly as possible, but if company is failing, let them fail fast, right? Instead of continue to pump money and continue to, if they're not going to be successful, just prolong their demise, right?
Exactly, Mr. Mayor. And that's something that we heard loud and clear when we were setting up Edmonton Unlimited is sometimes there's, and something we continue to hear from the ecosystem is that there's lots of government grants. And so lots of government grants for some things. So we have to be careful where we place this money, that it's making sure that it gets the right type of outcomes that council is attempting to get in the space.
So how will this help if council creates this fund, initial fund, phase one? You'll engage the community, advisory committee will be created. There will be a lot of learning through that process. But how does this tie into the Edmonton's economic action plan?
Well, this is a big part of being able to design an ecosystem that helps companies stay here in Edmonton and scale in Edmonton. I think we've heard a number of stories here this morning about companies that are doing that, and that there are particular companies in particular sectors that are doing that, in cellular agriculture as an example, and artificial intelligence. And this will give the city the ability to be able to help those companies scale and stay here in Edmonton. So they're part for the economic action plan, they're part of our economic diversification, they're part of some of our city plan goals, as well as part of our goals in terms of our energy transition as another example.
So if somebody has an idea, right, they need $10,000, $20,000, this could be a fund that will allow them to develop that idea, or I mean, scale up that idea. They already have an idea developed, scale it up, and if they're successful, they may leverage that $20,000 with equity money or provincial support or federal support or other supports.
That's correct. I just want to caution that we haven't decided what the grants will look like, what the size of them yet, okay. What that right scope is. So that is work that we need to do, because sometimes 10,000 isn't enough for a company to be able to scale to that next level. But yes, example. Yeah. Yes, okay. As an example, yes, that is absolutely the right idea.
Okay. Okay, so I want to come to the next steps. Is the $5 million coming out of the COVID recovery fund, which is in the FSR now, right? So money is available, or money is not available?
There's money available in the FSR if council chooses to prioritize this with the number of things, the number of things that need to be prioritized through the budget process.
I understand that. Like I look at the way administration came through the budget process with funded service packages around anti-racism work, reconciliation work, derelict properties, because there was a funding source available, right? So I just want to know, if a funding source is available, why it is still unfunded? Why cannot this be funded? Then I don't mind having a debate during budget discussion, but it reduces the need for another item to be debated when we have hundreds of other items to be debated, if the funding source is already there.
Yeah, I understood, Mr. Mayor. The budget actually needs to be amended for the service package to be included in the budget. And so part of that is because of the timing of when we're able to bring this report forward to committee, that we're here in November with that committee. So if it was the will of committee, you could choose to include it in the 2023 funded, or you could choose to put that budget package, which will be in the budget, put that budget package on the floor and debate it during council. So it is up to committee. Our recommendation would be the second one, that it gets debated at budget, but it is up to the will of committee if you would like.
Yeah, I understand it might be too late now, right? But I just kind of thinking of, like, if the idea is, yes, there's questions on governance and others, but if council or agrees with the idea of creating a fund, right, and there's a funding source, then why we need to, unless council wants to use their funding source for something else, right, that I don't know, right? So it could be. So all right, I'll see what the will of the committee is. I'll get a sense. Councillor Cartwell?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation today. I'm sorry I've been in and out, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating anything. Maybe just a few quick questions, though. So to Ms. McCabe, who selects the companies that will receive this grant? Is it that business advisory group, or is it?
Councillor Cartmel, we haven't decided that yet, but we will look to the advisory committee to help in the due diligence process as well.
Okay, so I'd be interested in that. And then just in sort of reading the report, there was suggestion or mention of ESG and goals and DEI goals. is that prescriptive? Like, are in order to qualify for a grant, will a prospective company have to meet or have plans in place, or is that more aspirational?
That's a great question. And I think there's a risk to making it prescriptive because there's businesses that are also doing things that might not help advance EDI goals that will help diversify our economy in the long run. So I think we need to make sure that we adhere to the ESG principles as outlined in the Economic Action Plan, to Council's commitment to making a more diverse and more equitable city, at the same time as looking at the sheer vast number of companies in the ecosystem that we want to be able to grow for our long-term diversification. So this is a body of work that we're going to have to do over the next few months here to understand that eligibility criteria, as well as Council's commitment to a number of other strategic plans.
Yeah, so and that's a bit of my apprehension is that, you know, there may be firms out there that with a grant, with a little bit of help, are going to really hit massive home runs. You know, I heard a metric from someone in the industry that says, you know, a tech job in Alberta creates 4.8 indirect other jobs in our economy. So we don't want to necessarily lose opportunities for companies that have just not reached that level of maturity to have a formal ESG policy or a formal DEI policy, but which, you know, might ultimately develop those things as they mature and grow. Is that fair?
That is absolutely fair, yes.
There's also mention, Ms. McCabe, about not-for-profits and institutions. And I'm just looking for clarity on this. Is the thought that we might provide grants to those kinds of organizations as well? And I wonder about that.
Potentially. I think we heard from even some not-for-profits this morning as part of the speakers that are actually working to help scale companies as well. So that's a body of work that we have to do with that kind of longer-term vision in place about that this will be a larger scale fund to be able to support the ecosystem as a whole, and not-for-profits have a role to play in the ecosystem for sure, and to help businesses scale as well.
Yeah, you know, I'd want to talk about that further, I guess. You know, not necessarily to debate it, but I wonder, you know, about losing sort of that direct control. Like if we're investing in company A because it has, you know, the potential to do this, that, and the other thing, versus investing in, you know, another granting organization that peels a little bit off the top, and then, you know, and we lose that sort of direct line of sight. I'm not sure if I'm articulating that well, but I'd have some apprehension around that.
Understood, and that's something we'll explore with this business advisory committee that we're putting together to help design the fund, and, you know, even working with the University of Alberta to understand what types of companies are being spun out of the U of A and where that support's needed, and what type of companies they are.
Yeah, okay. I have a bunch of other questions I can ask offline. I guess it's just finding alignment with the rest of the ecosystem and making sure we're inserting dollars where it's really needed, and, you know, not creating an overlap or missing a gap. So thanks very much. Thank you, Mayor Sohi.
Thank you, Councillor Cartmel. Councillor Rice, you want to move the recommendation?
Yes, before I have a few questions, I would like to move. I'm waiting for the wording here. To receive as information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead with questions.
So I would follow up on the top of Councillor Tim Cartmel question regarding the nonprofit organization to that overlap piece. I understand it's a larger scale ecosystem we want to create, but how we distinguish the grant and from nature of organization and between the business and the nonprofit organization. So I think that criteria needs to be very clear defined at the beginning.
Agreed. That's great feedback for us to consider, Councillor Rice.
And also for the criteria, I would like to say there one piece is missing, and for stability. And when we fund it for a certain company, and how we ensure that return, investment return, and from that stability perspective, and when we consider to give this money out.
Thank you. We'll consider that as part of the criteria.
Okay. Thank you. Another question I have is what engagement has been done with the Edmonton Innovation Committee to validate this idea?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the engagement does go back to 2019 when we were doing work to set up Edmonton Unlimited. And I will be honest, there was mixed reviews through some of this in terms of if there was a need to have grants for businesses. And what we did learn was that we need to make the top of the funnel really wide in terms of having a number of companies that are created in Edmonton to be able to scale and support ideas and diversify our economy. And what has become really apparent to me through the work that we've been doing is that with businesses, with Edmonton Unlimited and with Edmonton Global, is that this is a need. There is a need for grants for businesses to be able to stay in Edmonton, for them to be able to scale their idea in Edmonton, and quite frankly, for us to be able to compete on the Canadian landscape. There are other Canadian cities that have funds like this, and this will allow us to compete in that landscape.
Okay, so I guess, and then we still have the time to do more engagement and for that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, we absolutely have time to do engagement, and we are going to have to figure out what engagement with the community looks like with Edmonton Global and with Edmonton Unlimited. We can't do that alone.
So another question specific in the package, services package, because we are moving this package and receive as information. And 5 million is budget in 2023, and is a negative 5 million budgeted in 2024. So can you explain that? And then does that mean we don't have any 5 million and increase an entire over 4 years?
We have 1 year of funding if this was to be approved, and then the idea is that over the next 6 months we would develop the fund, we'd develop a longer term strategy for this, and then we come back to council because there's always the budget adjustment processes, and we come back with an update to council in Q3, Janice? Yes, likely. She's Q3, and we would come back with a longer-term strategy for this council race.
So from how this presented in the service package, it come across over 4 years, we don't have any zero because it's zeroed out. And then maybe maybe we can check with, our CFO stays there.
For you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So the service packages are designed for ongoing funding. And so in year one, you see a positive, which adds it to the budget. In year one, you see a negative, which removes it from the ongoing base because it's one-time money. So essentially what that service package is telling you is you have one-time money in 2023 and no money in the remainder of the years.
Okay. So operating cost, I saw the FTE request in the package as well, right? An internal FTE, and so this is that safe to say we are intended to manage this grant internally and use the house capacity?
Over the first year, we would bring somebody in over the first 11 months here to develop the fund, to work in my office, in the Deputy Manager's office, to help design it, to put the business community or business advisory committee in place, to help figure out the due diligence, to work with Janice and I to do exactly that.
Okay, thank you. That's my question, and then for now.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. So that concludes the questions. We have a motion on the floor. This will be received for information. Then we will have discussion during the budget. All right. So please vote.
We have all the votes.
Display the votes, please. That is carried, and thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Now we go to our next item on the agenda, which is 7.2 Edmonton Unlimited Update for 2022. And is there a presentation from administration and the delegation?
There is a presentation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So good morning, members of committee. We're just getting set up here. There's a presentation from Edmonton Unlimited. With me today is Catherine Warren, who is the CEO of Edmonton Unlimited, and she has brought with her Chris Cotter and Aaron Gobelis from her team. Catherine, over to you.
Good morning, and what an exciting day for innovation in our city. Edmonton's unlimited potential is very clear in this room from all we heard this morning. I'd like to thank you, Mayor and Council, for your time today, and to City leadership, our inaugural board, and our Innovation Growth Council for ongoing guidance. So now I'll speak for about 10 minutes here to cover what took 2 years for Edmonton's innovation communities to co-create. And I know that I'm standing on the shoulders of local giants who have paved the way for all we do at Edmonton Unlimited and propelled Alberta's capital city to what it is right now, an ambitious community of tech entrepreneurs, progressive investors, sustainability pioneers, local innovators, and many others leading the charge for economic diversification and civic prosperity. Next slide, please. We are privileged to be gathered on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional meeting ground and home of Indigenous peoples, including Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and Nakota Sioux. At Edmonton Unlimited, we are committed to empowering Indigenous innovation in the spirit of reconciliation, and I am grateful for what we can learn about innovating with purpose. Next slide, please. Edmonton is a city of innovators tackling global challenges, including the climate emergency, public health, food security, digital inclusion, and reconciliation, to name just a few. And our 21st century solutions are exactly what international markets demand and precisely where enlightened investors will put their capital. We can do well by doing good, and that is a wildly exciting business value proposition. I would also say that we have a values proposition. Urban innovation is critical to a world in balance, with more than 50% of the Earth's population living in cities and responsible for the lion's share of emissions. Cities like Edmonton are crucibles for these global solutions. That's another powerful reason why our vision and purpose align with global trends, international interests, and the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Ultimately, we are your public trust. And as a publicly funded organization, we must also align with the city's economic action plan, support innovation in the public realm, and help companies find opportunities and investment in these contexts. Next slide. Everyone in this room and with us on Zoom has the same goal: to see Edmonton thrive in the green, inclusive, and digital economy. This will take a massive effort. There is global competition, and we know as hockey lovers that we must keep our skates on. It's Edmonton's trailblazing vision, ambition, and potential that will attract talent and investment, will retain the brightest international students, and inspire families to put down roots. We must work together to succeed, and that's why we engage with local startups, sister agencies, universities, provincial partners, national and international federations, and we want to keep our eyes on the prize together and gather valuable input, competitive intelligence, and track the trends that we must anticipate. We know we also need to bring the community along with us. This means funding for accelerators for tech founders, supporting micro-credentials for new kinds of innovators, and contributing to Edmonton's North American leadership as a UN City of Learners. This means making significant contributions to downtown vibrancy, sustainability, and accessibility, such as the new building that we're opening in 2023. This means supporting people traditionally left out of the innovation conversation, such as Indigenous innovators, Black and female founders and funders, and this means opening the doors to interdisciplinary innovation and providing more public programming, such as our collaboration with Edmonton Public Libraries. You could say that our approach is a new way of forging an innovation ecosystem, an inclusive, interconnected, and tech-plus economy. And I recognize that change can be hard. But while we are certainly onto something big, maybe it is more than just novel. because throughout history, cities from Athens to Atlanta, brilliant places have drawn together the best in innovation, from science, from technology, from architecture, design, energy, and civil society to achieve great things. Next slide, please. That's another reason why in the past year we spent a lot of time engaging Edmonton's diversified innovation communities, inviting 500 local innovators to give us feedback, joining dozens of local roundtables, national and international groups, and interviewing almost 50 investors with an interest in a triple bottom line of people, planet, and prosperity. What we learned is that Edmonton has limitless potential. Our city is home to risk takers that see opportunities instead of barriers, who support and encourage one another, a place where people come to do big things. We call this innovation from here for the world, and Edmonton is already delivering. In 2021, our city was named the fastest growing tech sector in North America. Edmonton's ecosystem value increased by 236% since 2020. And in addition to these and other top stats, we are also a city of bedrock innovation, of deep tech, of AI, machine learning, big data, life sciences, and net zero hydrogen. These are among our impressive strengths. Slide 6. We'll continue to support Edmonton's innovation communities through our 5 core pillars: programming, pathfinding, positioning, placemaking, and partnerships. Next slide. We know that we must continue to deliver, and we have the wind in our sails from thousands of supporters across our city, inspired by Edmonton Unlimited's early accomplishments. So I'd like to tell you a bit about what these are. We have grown quickly and achieved economies of scale for taxpayers by embracing Startup Edmonton, consolidating the key assets of Tech Edmonton, and administering the Edmonton Regional Innovation Network. It was this regional network that unanimously chose our organization to offer critical supports and secure new funding totaling $4.9 million for the ecosystem. Together with the City of Edmonton, we launched an exciting municipal procurement experiment, what we call Capital City Pilots, giving local innovators a chance to transform city-owned assets while gaining powerful case studies for future sales and investment. Not only did Edmonton startups and scale-ups tell us that they wanted to innovate for the city, but the province and the feds believed in us to the tune of $2.6 million over 3 years to support these ventures. Early in 2023, we'll be opening Edmonton's newest innovation destination, and this accessible street-level space will contribute to downtown revitalization and be welcoming to all. We'll provide hot desking, public event space, a 100-person amphitheater and pitch stage, rooms for workshops, program delivery, industry collaborations, an innovation gallery, and the all-important community cafe. Located at 101 in Jasper, Unlimited Place will also be the first home for our team. We are children of the pandemic, and we cannot wait to be together in person with Edmonton's diverse innovation communities. When it comes to our new identity, we are getting great feedback and traction, positioning local innovators as change agents, putting our city on the global innovation stage with a reach of 3.5 billion potential media impressions in the past 2 months alone. We're also very proud of our $5 million fund for accelerators. Together with this city investment and significant support from the province and the feds, we've attracted 3 Silicon Valley accelerators to Edmonton, delivering more free programs to diverse tech entrepreneurs, including international entrepreneurs, to prepare them for revenue growth and capital attraction. Together with Platform Calgary, our partners, we also launched Alberta Catalyzer to accelerate pre-seed companies. And what participants tell us is they get credibility, momentum, and access to powerful new networks, which is especially important for female founders and other entrepreneurs who don't yet have their own money networks. Now, to speak personally for a moment, I know that being a startup is grueling, relentless, and often uncompensated work. It requires almost superhuman risk tolerance. It takes a toll on family and friends. Some entrepreneurs are among the fortunate. They can catapult themselves to the next level with investment from these same families and these same friends. For other founders, not so much. Imagine you've got a great idea but lack well-resourced friends and family to invest. It's that much harder. So this is another good reason why, as a municipal innovation engine, Edmonton Unlimited is here to serve all innovators, not just the fortunate few, although we love them. It's up to us to create new opportunities and new ways to capitalize on these future founders, who, by the way, are often from underrepresented groups. They too will go on to patent IP, they will go on to employ local talent, collaborate internationally, deliver shareholder returns, all while solving global challenges with their ingenuity. Slide 9, please. Edmonton Startup Week is always a highlight for our city, and we are proud to carry the baton. This year, we mobilize 80 free events hosted by organizations all across Edmonton. It was attended in person by more than 1,500 Edmontonians, including 750 delegates at launch party. There, 10 local founders pitched and launched their companies for all of us in Edmonton to get behind and propel in the year ahead. These are incredible startups like drone safety company Air Market, waste to energy company Varme, local food enterprise The Public, and ag tech startup Deep Blue Green. Next slide. We've leveraged core funding that we receive from the city to secure significant provincial and federal funding. This is an endorsement that all orders of government are behind our inclusive strategy and deep programs every step of the way. In addition to the city's $5 million annual core funding, plus another $5 million one-time for accelerators, we have led in raising $11.9 million in follow-on funding for programs in the region. Of course, funding always comes with accountability, and we are responsible for significant performance measures, detailed reporting, as well as the hiring of qualified teammates to deliver these returns. I'd like to thank our amazing team, and I'd also like to thank the private sector and our sister agencies that generously contributed a total of another $116,000 in cash and in-kind sponsorships to Edmonton Startup Week, making these events not only possible, but really inviting with the food and the drink that grease the wheels of startups everywhere. Next slide, please. Nearly 60% of our total funding goes directly to program delivery, helping local founders and companies start, grow, and scale. In the first year, our programs team served 2,619 participants. In 2021, founders and companies accessed from us more than 3,100 hours of our coaching and mentorship, supported in part by Alberta Innovates. Our programs are wildly popular, including startup programming, which has a net promoter score of 95, and our post-secondary institution program with its chart-topping promoter score of 100. Slide 12, please. This success not only contributes to solutions for the world, but new companies, jobs, and investment right here in our city. You know, you can't grow what you don't know, and that's why we have a research team, and that's why we map Edmonton's innovation ecosystem, and that's why we track local results. Our research team has mapped 2,100 local innovation ventures, and participants in our startup and scale-up programming have raised over $2.8 million in investment and 2.3 million Canadian in grant funding since July of last year. These companies have also increased their teams by an average of 60%, creating new jobs for Edmontonians. Slide 13. Our launch phase analysis reveals that 60% of founders surveyed in our programs identify as tackling a global challenge. This is a living example of our new tagline, innovation from here for the world. Last slide, please. As I wrap up, we invite input from the communities that we serve, and we will reciprocate. As a public trust, we appreciate that listening and transparency are critical to relationship building. There's no question, there's a lot of work ahead, and it will require all of us working together. By any definition, inclusive innovation is a grand collaboration. We can think of it as a joint venture, if you will, and it's going to be a great ride. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. If you don't mind, please step back. We will go to members of the public. Oh, yeah. No worries. We will call the names. Victoria Selly or Chelly? Is it Selly? Okay, please. You'll be number 1. Colin Christensen, in person. Colin, number 2. Brad Ferguson, remotely. Brad, are you there?
I am here, sir.
Okay, thank you. You'll be number 3. Seetal Mehta Wallish, Seetal's there. Number 4. Myrna Bittner, joining remotely. Myrna, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, and then we will have Morike Onialo Olose Bikan. Nice to see you again. You'll be number 6. All right. Go ahead. Each of you will have 5 minutes, and green will start your time. Yellow means 4 minutes, and red means 5 minutes are over. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Victoria. Oh, yes. Here? Okay, perfect. Good morning. My name is Victoria Selly, and I am the co-founder of Fly and Fetch. We have a shipping company that optimizes technology and the power of community to make international shipping more accessible and affordable for everyone. Today, I'm here to talk about my experience as an entrepreneur that has worked very closely with Edmonton Unlimited. Back in 2020, me and my co-founder, we were part of the Student Founders Program. This program offers students, entrepreneurs, mentorship and guidance while building their early stage product or service. During this summer of 2020, we focused on developing our business idea. We talked to experts, potential customers, and other entrepreneurs. This helped us to really understand our customers and the problem we were trying to solve. And by the end of this program, we were able to launch our MVP. A few months later, we had the opportunity to be part of Propel, a pre-accelerator that connected us to experts and mentors who help us to identify challenges and opportunities while building our business. Thanks to Propel, we had access to our very first non-dilutive funding, which helped us to build our platform and automate some processes, giving us more time to focus on expanding our business. This also gave us the resources we needed to create awareness and increase our revenue. I am a newcomer, and Edmonton Unlimited has made me part of its community. I think that is extremely valuable. I am also a first-time entrepreneur, and believe me when I tell you that every single stage of this journey has been challenging somehow. It has been fulfilling, exciting, very fun, but challenging. And me and my team have been able to overcome all of these challenges, and we have been able to get here where we are at right now, thanks to the mentors, advisors, and peer-to-peer support we have found, thanks to Edmonton Unlimited. So back in 2020, I joined Unlimited with a business idea, just a business idea, and today my company has raised over $600,000 in dilutive and non-dilutive funding. We have created jobs, and our revenue has increased 4 times since last year. Now we are growing and expanding our business. Our goal is to go global, And as Catherine said before, we want to go from Edmonton to the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will go to Colin Christensen.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be here and in support of Edmonton Unlimited. Still wrapping my tongue around that one as the name change. Just by way of introduction, my name is Colin Christensen, of course, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, investor, in the ERIN Steering Committee member, board chair of a group called Action for Healthy Communities here in the city, an entrepreneur in residence at MacEwan University, and a co-founder of a number of companies, but one I'm really proud of is a platform helping entrepreneurs all around the world through microloans. And we're in 10 countries so far. For the last 20 years, I've been working with the ecosystem here in Edmonton and spent the last 30 years mentoring organizations in that, not only here, but also all around the world. Most of the time that I spend now is working with those early stage entrepreneurs. Knowing entrepreneurship the way I do, Edmonton Unlimited is really a key resource for the city, and I'm grateful to be included in that. Entrepreneurship is really not intuitive, even as Victoria has shared there. Without support, unfortunately, most fail. That's a very common number. It's a very high number, and it's a very intimidating number. So of those who fail, though, the part that scares me the most is Bloomberg says about 71% never try again. That's a terrible number. They give up. I mean, and why would they? Why wouldn't they? They've lost their heart, maybe lost their budget, and don't want to continue. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we've proven that with this support, though, that they can double and triple their chances of success and fail safely, if you want to call it that, and then get right back to innovating where we need them. The media highlights all the great support that we do, the programs that are scaling, working with scaling tech entrepreneurs. What isn't talked about, though, unfortunately, is the support that's missing for more than 50% of the entrepreneurs that don't fit the narrative. So this includes underestimated groups like newcomers, Indigenous, as well as broad industries, non-tech and non-scaling entrepreneurs. The work that Catherine Warren and the team do at Edmonton Unlimited is striving to create more of these supports and to help these innovators solve the problems that the world needs solved. So the two elements that I often find missing are when creating innovation ecosystems. One is the limiting term of innovation to be the same as tech-centric. And those two things are very, very different. Innovation is vital in every industry, and tech is not just the only way to innovate. No one would argue that innovation is important, but how we spend our time and energy often shows it differently. The other shortfall that is focusing only on those companies that are looking to scale. Scaling is an investment strategy, and it's not a job growth strategy. Early stage businesses are often too focused on surviving rather than seeking whether they're going to be scaling or not. And so I believe that if we all had a crystal ball and we could figure that out, we'd invest very wisely in the scaling companies, but unfortunately we don't. All companies can create and scale jobs and create economic resilience, and we need to build systems for all the entrepreneurs to make sure they can grow into potential scaling ones. So in closing here, I believe that Edmonton Unlimited is a key piece of the innovation ecosystem here and the fabric within Edmonton, and I'm very excited to be a part of the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we go to Brad Ferguson.
Good day, Your Worship, councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today, and nice to be back in the River Valley room, even though it's remote. My name is Brad Ferguson, for those that don't know me, and I run the public sector practice for a company called Optimus SBR, which is Canada's largest independently owned management consulting firm. However, in this room, I've served as the CEO of Edmonton Economic Development from 2012 to 2018, which was at that time a conglomerate model that oversaw economic development, tourism, and the innovation system. And during those 5 years, we were considered probably Canada's highest performing economic development agency, responsible for 1/4 of all net new jobs in the country consistently for 5 years in a row. And we focused intensely on downtown revitalization with the arena. We leveraged the startup community and the innovation community in a significant way to shift the Edmonton brand from an industrial brand to a much more progressive brand, all at during a time where the rest of Alberta was experiencing pretty much a recession. Since I left that post, I've been working around the world really on different economic development agencies, tourism and innovation agencies, from Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo to Panama to Medina in Saudi Arabia to Waterfront Toronto. And today I just simply like to share 3 lessons that I've learned along the way, as I believe that are critical success factors for these civic agencies. The first is really around governance. And the most successful economic development models are established with the municipality as the sole shareholder, governed by an independent board and led by a highly energized and engaged CEO and team, with a budget to successfully deliver on mandate and the outcomes that are required and defined by the shareholder. Most agencies today are set up under these principles. However, what's interesting is most fail to maintain those principles over time, especially those around independence and interdependence. Specifically, when mayor, council, and the agency are all in alignment, a city booms. And when these 3 entities are not in alignment, the city perishes. And times of perish come most often when the political side oversteps its role as the shareholder and starts to impose a relentless series of inquiries, reports, and activities on the agency, which massively de-energizes the organization. It disengages its really good people to the point where the organization loses momentum in the market and really, I believe, they become ineffective. At the same time, the organization can also take the word independent too far and pit itself against mayor and council, again, highly ineffective. And what I would encourage, and really my first kind of lesson I've learned, is that it's a marriage. And like all marriages, it requires work and it requires communication and a spirit of independence and interdependence, kind of alongside that adherence to the original governance principles that we talked about. The second lesson I really learned is that in this area of the area of focus and picking winners can sometimes get in the way. And really over the last 10 years, we've seen the rise and fall of the cannabis industry, cryptocurrencies. We've seen energy sources come and go like geothermal. We've seen pro-China policies, anti-China policies, coding from C++ to HTML to Python. And we live in a very fast changing world of industries and technologies, and many agencies spend an inordinate amount of time trying to chase what's the next best thing, as opposed to creating the conditions for a city to really prosper. Guy Kawasaki, that legendary evangelist for Apple Computer, really said it well when he said, his quote was, "Let 1,000 flowers bloom," which I've learned to mean the role of the municipality and the economic development or the innovation agency is to create an environment for entrepreneurs to bloom, no matter where they come from, to experiment, to fail, to rise again, to succeed. And an innovation is a platform for experimentation, but really it's a mindset that is built in the community. And that's what's created the BioWares and the Booster Juices and the Italian Centers, the Running Rooms, the Investopedias, and the Ulta MLs at Edmonton, is really a collective mindset that rests in the city, and the agency has a huge role to play in that regard. And I think Edmonton Unlimited really has it right. My last point is around consistency. And specifically, I can draw a distinct line that separates the cities that succeed from those that fail based on their ability to provide consistency of mandate, governance, funding, and support to their economic development, tourism, and innovation agencies. They set them up with the right principles. They let them breathe and develop without interference and short-term thinking, and they allow for consistency and predictability to emerge, which takes a bit of time and patience, but those are the ones that succeed. The cities that prematurely alter the mandate of their agencies as a way to force improvement on them, on average, lose 4 to 5 years momentum, and those 4 to 5 years are just never made up. So from my lens, you've birthed a great organization for the community. You have a fantastic CEO, a solid vision of letting 1,000 flowers bloom. And I encourage you to be principle-based as you support the governance and its future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brad. Next, we will go to Sital. Here we go, once again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Very quickly, hello everyone. I'm Sheetal Walsh. I'm a founder and investor. As I mentioned, I serve on the board of Edmonton Global and was very proud to serve on the inaugural board of what is now Edmonton Unlimited. I also run a social entrepreneurship platform for financial inclusion for some of the most vulnerable people across Alberta. And I currently serve as senior advisor to President Flanagan at the University of Alberta, specifically focusing on funding for early startups, Previously, I founded the VC strategy for Microsoft, reporting directly to Bill Gates. And thank you, Brad, for reminding me. Guy Kawasaki was my mentor during those days. I also served as deal maker for the British government's Global Entrepreneur Program, where I helped raise £1 billion for over 900 companies. In my career as a tech innovator, I have 3 areas that I've really been focusing and learning on, my 3 learnings. One is the importance of mentoring. Second is the importance of the need for early supports for startups. And third is the notion of community building. In my support case for Edmonton Unlimited, I will focus on the tech ecosystem and the need for funding early on with support systems specifically around accelerators. Though we have a stellar talent pool set of community here in Edmonton, we are really not a thriving tech ecosystem like the Valley, the UK, or Berlin. We still talk about the need for diversification, and in order to diversify, we need to invest in startup innovations that inform the future of energy, agriculture, health, all leveraging artificial intelligence. With the University of Alberta and other PSIs, we have an opportunity to partner with Edmonton Unlimited that will allow for us to build a thriving ecosystem that will also build solutions and innovations to tackle some of the world's greatest challenges. Specifically regarding accelerators, the ones that we have attracted into the province have not only been fruitful for attracting money locally, but also for delivering supports to help launch these startups that otherwise may have died or moved to the Silicon Valley for further funding. Housing the accelerators within Edmonton Unlimited has also allowed the ecosystem to benefit from a diverse set of specialized and also agnostic solutions to support startups. This includes accessing global and local mentors. We all know many of them, and they're amazing. The Catalyzer program in particular is in talks with the University of Alberta to help position new and upcoming innovations to commercialize IP and develop interdisciplinary teams and strong founders. Excuse me. Our strategy as a university to commercialize IP and help new startups go to market is further enhanced by the Edmonton Unlimited strategy and programming. We certainly do not want to recreate what already exists in our ecosystem, and that is why the University of Alberta is partnering with Edmonton Unlimited to actually work very closely on the accelerator side. It's no surprise when these accelerators came to Edmonton, to Alberta, the first question was, why are they here? Why are there so many? And how are they going to actually integrate and work with us? And are they going to steal our companies? Well, a couple of months into this strategy has proven very fruitful for us. I receive daily calls, as I note as Catherine, from the accelerators, really championing the talent that we have in Alberta, and specifically from the university and from Edmonton. The accelerators are knocking on the door of the university daily because they know that we have exceptional talent and they want to know what's being developed in those wonderful labs, many of which are quiet and under the radar. So working with Edmonton Unlimited, we will be partnering to elevate those labs, to bring people out of their research activities and to really commercialize IP. I'd like to just conclude by saying the university leads with purpose, and I think that's very synergistic with what Edmonton Unlimited leads with. We have an opportunity not only to revitalize what is going on in our city, but also to be on the global map. And I really want to thank Catherine and her team for what they have done in a very short period of time with a lot of challenges, and they have really put us on the map. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Next, we will go to Myrna Bittner.
Hi, thank you, everyone, and wonderful to be here. I'll take a little bit of a different perspective, maybe, and different journey through my support of Edmonton Unlimited. We're a women-led certified Aboriginal business here in Edmonton, 8.5-year-old overnight success. Fully and firmly believe in the philosophy of succeed slowly versus fail fast. So I'll be a bit of a disruptor there. But really, this is my third tech company in the Edmonton region. The first two were back in the 1990s when there was no real tech ecosystem. And so I want to speak to a little bit about the difference that a tech ecosystem and an innovation ecosystem and one that enables diversity and promotes diversity and supports diversity in that ecosystem, how much that means to us now and where we are as a company. My company develops synthetic models of cities and regions around the world to dial forward, sandbox. We are the Sim City, except for real. And we started this in 2014. We were an early customer of Startup Edmonton, so we made use of the hot desk space when it was cool and it would attract people to actually, they wanted to come and meet with us because just so they could get in and see the space. But it really helped us, expose and explore what we were doing, give us some community because it is so lonely and those hours are so long. And it's so important to have a place that you belong as an innovator. We were part of the 2016 launch party, I know, which continues to be a very successful event and is promoted and incorporated into Edmonton Unlimited. And that really enabled us to put together and formalize what our offering was, not only for ourselves, but also for our community. It was a real focus, and we have found for many programs to be very focused on scaling and growth. I really appreciate Colin's perspective too that he offered here on the accelerators, on the challenge of when you're fitting into an ecosystem, and they're very focused on the Silicon Valley models, for example, versus models that incorporate and enable diversity. My company has, in the past 2 years, been on stage around the world representing Edmonton, winner of a United Nations Global Call Award, Taiwan's Top Technology Gold Medal Award. We've participated in the National Science Foundation in doing some of the largest sun-to-grid simulations in the eastern US that are all about our futures and mitigating some large disaster events. We're part of low carbon hydrogen acceleration in the US, in Houston and Boston and New York, climate tech acceleration groups. And so we really truly have become now international. And we're now able to bring that back to our city. So as a women-led certified Aboriginal business, a growing team, we're doubling every year, we're now able to participate and we've built out the city of, and our region and the futures of our region. And a vital component of those futures when we are working with a group of 14 leaders, which includes the city of Edmonton, here is to model out our built environment, model out the demographics that we are trying to attract, the industry that we need to build and support those demographics and that growth. And a huge component of that is a diverse population, is a new population, is a younger generation. And I think having Edmonton Unlimited be that focus point for many of those different programs and building that community and building those pathways so that there can be diverse access to success is really vital. Funding is a part of it, and being able to point and help people and guide them in directions of funding that supports the business model that makes sense for their business and the growth path that makes sense for their business is also vital, because not all of us are on that Silicon Valley track, and nor is that sustainable when 9/10 of those companies end up being zombied. So we lose a lot of innovation if we focus on that path as well. So I just wanted to represent the value that we see in Edmonton Unlimited and continuing to fund and grow this organization.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Myrna. Next, we go to Morinike. Go ahead, please.
Hi again. It's good to be back. All right, so I wanted to make sure. Okay, so you might all know me. I founded Ribbon Rouge Foundation a while back, and I just wanted to give credit to Mr. Mayor for attending our 2015 event. So that foundation currently supports Black scholars. It now has over $2 million in funding dedicated to sustainable Black health equity in Alberta, and provides meaningful employment for 18 people, Black folks who usually would be excluded from applied research and postgraduate degrees. The reason I say this is to make sure that people understand that I'm a woman of my word and I have my track record of accomplishments, because that program, that organization started as a fashion show when I was a student. And it has now gone on to be something that is established and supports several people in community and is actually going to create a body of research, applied research, to understand Black health inequity. Since then, I have sold my pharmacy. I've moved on into the startup, Kemet. Now, Kemet is building the next version of medication manufacturing and how we actually make transportable factories for African countries. To get there, we've built a proof of concept in a lab and with software. I'm a woman of my word, as I said, and earlier in March, I told this council that I will leave to Silicon Valley to raise funds because I could not do that in Edmonton. I was not provided the funds I needed. Since then, I have been part of one of the world's most prestigious accelerators, YC, and backed by them. But I love this city because of its weirdly supportive capacity to allow a fashion show to turn into a full-on organization that now supports African, Caribbean, Black people across the province. And so since I started Kemet last year, we launched July, I bootstrapped with all of my life savings in its initial stage. We are now 6 times revenue from launching last year. We'll break even at the end of next year. We've provided internships or studentships for students that are marginalized from STEM. We employed 12 summer youth who are racialized or women this past summer. I just want you to know that when I successfully build the first factory in a box that's exported to an African country, I will be the first Black woman founder and CEO of a global pharma company. That's how good our systems are at excluding people who look like me from STEM and manufacturing and construction. There's only one other CEO, not a founder, of a global pharma manufacturing company, Yvonne Greenstreet. I'm thankful that she's an inspiration. And so we'll continue to be a space for those who are marginalized from STEM. Since then, we've secured an accreditation with the federal government in Africa for 30% of their federal spending budget. And we've provided for 1,200 children and families across the country for pain and fever medications through our software that has scaled from Alberta into Ontario, Saskatchewan, with a wait list in Quebec and BC. So we've done a lot, and I'm so thankful for organizations like Edmonton Unlimited, because we're also now going to be working closely with them on our customer traction within Canada to attract even more resources so we can eventually build this drug manufacturing facility of the future that allows us to actually develop export for Canadian economy as well. And I really look forward to, in addition to investment conversations that talk about set-asides for people who are marginalized from technology, engineering, manufacturing, and construction, and how do we actually support their customer acquisition strategies as well. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much, and everyone for your participation and sharing your thoughts and insights with us. So what are we going to do now? Take a break, and then we have a 1:30 time specific item that we need to discuss. So we will not be getting back to you to ask questions of the members of the public until we conclude that item, which is 7.6 item, update on emergency shelter spaces in Edmonton. So sorry about the process, but we yeah, their colleagues, we have questions to panelists. I don't. Councillor, you have, okay, well, just hold on then, don't go away. Councillor Stevenson has only one question, then we will think about next step. Councillor Stevenson?
Great, yeah, thank you. I just had a very quick question for Mr. Ferguson, if you're still there online. You know, I really appreciated sort of highlighting the success factors and what we need to do to ensure that Edmonton Unlimited is successful. Also appreciate the point that like endless inquiries by council can really stifle. At the same time, you know, I think it is important that we have a sense of you know, the outcomes that we're achieving. So what do you suggest as some of the measures and performance metrics that we should be monitoring?
So thanks for the question, and through the chair, you know, first I think it's really important that council becomes as definitive as possible as what their expectations are. It's one of the hardest things for a council to do. We never had it in my era, a very clear understanding of what expectations are. So as an organization, every time we did an annual general meeting or a semi-annual general meeting, we would be guessing at, is this what you want? Is this what you want? Is this what you want? All right. And that was met with kind of, not quite, here, go back and do these other things. And so we played this game of chase because, you know, council and through administration, we didn't have clarity in terms of what the expectation of the shareholder was. So the closer you can get to that, the better the result is in terms of ease of communication and ease of expectations. So I would start there for sure.
Awesome. That's great advice. Thank you so much. That was my only question.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your presentations. And so that would conclude the questions to the panelists. You're free to join us back when we get back to this item. But in the meantime, really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. We will take a break now, and we will be back at 1:30 with item 7.6. Okay, thank you so much. Bye.